Hello everyone. Now I'm going to talk about what is quality in English language teacher education article by Ron White. Firstly, I'm going to look at what is quality in education. The first step in answering this question is to clarify stakeholders' views of education and of teacher education. Firstly, we can say that if stakeholders prioritize the product, then accountability and quality assurance will be a quality requirement. If they privilege process, quality will encourage a never-ending improvement. The effective management of human and material resources is implicit in this approach, in the second one. So the privileging process in the second one, it includes clarifying objectives, agreeing quality standards between customers and providers, working together in effective teams, which are characterized by high levels of mutual trust and cooperation. The writer mentions here in about two articles in the past, from the past. They are mainly about the quality in English language teacher education. Here we are going to talk about Tufts' article and Radican's article. So let's have a look at them together. In the first article by Tufts, Fordism term is used mainly with reference to the emergence of very large private sector companies which had been able to grow through selling standardized products which were assembled by unskilled and semi-skilled labor. Tufts here contrasts the assembly line approach of Fordism with the wide range of skills now required of the post-Fordist teacher. So post-Fordism here emphasizes the professional development of the teacher. Fordism points out post-Fordism for the teacher, which involves upskilling inside a method of organization that places more importance on the skills and abilities of the teacher. So we can say that Fordism involves the de-skilling of the teacher, while post-Fordism emphasizes the professional development of the teacher. When we look at the second article by Radican's, it looks from the point of a state-of-the-art review of evaluation in ELTE. Here, the development of new systems for teacher evaluation is being promoted. The evaluation to teacher education in terms of the impact on teacher performance and on the trainees themselves is the main focus here. And another point of view by Stones, the idea of good teaching is necessarily value-laden. Here, there is no general consensus on what constitutes good teaching according to him. He claims that it is subject expertise and not teacher training which makes good teachers, is fallacious. So fallacy is mentioned here. When we look at the appraising part, the appraising of teachers' performance, the approach to appraising teachers depends on the views of education held among those responsible for the appraisal scheme. So we can say there are two views of education in this point. First of them is defining it as a commodity. So here, this approach goes hand in hand with bureaucratization, characterized by specialization, a hierarchy of authority, a system of rules, and impersonality. So we can say that it's a kind of Fordist review. And in the second one, in the latter one, this approach is associated with professionalism, within which the individual practitioner is given the maximum space to exercise his or her skills and judgment. It's a kind of post-Fordist view, as it defines it as a public good. The quality in education started to become related to bureaucracy rather than professionalism lately. And this review, this point of view, defines teaching and teachers as products. So there is a market-driven view in here, in education, which shows the influence of commerce and industry, we can say. And it fails to be sensitive to teaching as a process and to teachers engaged in a process. Thus, many educationalists here criticizes this view. And we can talk about three approaches to equality in education. There are three approaches. All of them have different points of view, different focuses. First one is quality assurance. It's a kind of experts-driven approach. It prioritizes accountability. It runs the danger of distorting teaching and the curriculum by emphasizing the easily identifiable and testable at the expense of the longer term and more qualitative goals of education. It is concerned with outcomes. Here, the standards are set externally by experts and presented as a set of codified requirements or expectations, evaluated by some objective criteria, and usually involving some form of inspection and formal evaluation or examination, something like this. And in the second one, in contract performance, here quality through contract performance is based on provider-driven, and the contract is being negotiated by those who will undertake tasks associated with that contract before conformance assessment begins. Here, conformance expectations can be built into the contract and mutually assessed on a continuing basis by the parties concerned. So the contract conformance will be defined by teacher educators at a local level, negotiating with local stakeholders or customers. And the third approach is a customer-driven approach, client-led or customer-led approach, we can say. Here is based on customers' expectations and requirements. One customer's expectations or requirements may differ from the other ones, and from those assumed by the service providers also. But when providers and customers work collaboratively to define requirements and the services to meet the requirements, performance can be improved. Initiatives can be taken that satisfy the needs of the significant numbers of the stakeholders. And quality cannot be defined without taking into consideration the complex chain of customer-supplier relations, which characterizes ELTE education. The people involved in this complex chain are stakeholders, and they are the people who are affected by ELTE education. So when we ask the question, who are the stakeholders in ELTE education, we can have two sets of answers. One of them is customer and the other one is supplier. And one and the same party can be both customer and supplier at different points in the customer-supplier chain. When we look at this table, we can say that, for example, as a customer, the trainer receives information and resources from suppliers, appraisal information from inspectors or other evaluators. As a supplier, trainers supply information and training. Their customers include trainees, other trainers, and administrators. Customer stakeholders include parties like central government, local government, and local management of schools, employers, parents of the pupils, pupils themselves, and trainees. Supplier stakeholders, on the other hand, include the Ministry of Education Curriculum Panel and Committee, and members of the teaching profession, professional bodies, academics, researchers, methodologists, authors, publishers, examining bodies, and also teacher educators. And when we look at the quality in English language teacher education, when we look at the definition of it again, we can say that some stakeholders who define teaching as a craft subject that should be learned on the job think that low priority is being given to observe teachers, theory and principles to learn to teach. But it is limited because trainees just learn to do what teachers do now by this way. Other stakeholders who has a transformation view of quality, and they define teaching as the solving of pedagogical problems through active inquiry and experimentation. They give higher priority to conceptualizing the processes of teaching and learning, and they give priority to improvement of the trainees. And what improving what trainees are doing now with a view to continual improvement in the future is essential for them. And trainees are encouraged here to develop their pedagogical understanding and skills in the second one. And this transformation view, this is a kind of transformation view, is in line with the post-Fordist approach to ELTE education. And visions of the future create aspirations. To realize these aspirations, there are two steps. First one involves setting observable goals and objectives for short, medium, and long term. And a second step is to identify the process owners within the educational system and to recognize at which points intervention in the process is possible. When we look at it in general, we see that in ELTE education, quality can be supplied just by teamwork for the need of more than one person, since attempts to influence process necessarily involve more than one person. And it's also essential to achieve a balance between the requirements of the accountability to stakeholders and those of professionalism in order to nurture and encourage the autonomy of the individual practitioner. Thanks for listening.